So what are some of the customs associated with it? I mean, of course, you mentioned that Iranians get 2 weeks off during the Iranian
That
New Year,
that's
but
yes.
except that's a very important one, of course. But besides that,
Sure, sure. Well, what you in advance of the New Year, what you have is Chaharshanbe Suri, which is basically Iranian fire festival, when there are bonfires all across the city and people buy fireworks and they use a lot of fireworks and explosives. That's the way I can put it, because in Iran it's very common to build homemade grenades or something and throw them in the streets and that type of thing. And this Iranian Fire Festival is held on the night of the last Wednesday of the year. It's called Chaharshanbe Suri, the red or the fiery Wednesday, but it's held on Tuesday night. And it's a very, I quite like it. It's a very it's a very interesting and very fun festival.
and extremely popular, I would say, like even now, right?
Yes, yes, very, very popular. Even during Corona times, it's very, very popular. But and there are number of traditions associated with it, especially when you go to Azerbaijani areas. They have a lot of dishes that are made depending on the city. But the main tradition that everybody sort of follows is the jumping over fire, which is when they do that, they say a line which is sort of rhythmic that says that your redness, fire's redness, your redness to me, and my yellowness to you. And yellow here is sort of associated with disease and sickness. So give me your warmth and your healthiness, because in especially in Iranian literature, I don't know if it's the same in English literature, that for example red face or red cheeks are associated with beauty and warmth and goodness. So give me your warmth and goodness and take my disease and take my hatred, take all the bad things away from me. And it's probably again rooted in ancient purification rituals. In Shahnameh, which I mentioned before, you have a character which we come back to later on, actually, Siavash, which has to walk through the fire as a way of proving his innocence, because fire is seen as a sort of, uh, you know, it's a sort of not as a God itself, but as God's physical perhaps appearance or something. So if somebody's innocent, it wouldn't hurt them, that type of thing. So you have Chaharshanbe Suri, which is very popular. Then on the day of New Year, uh, and before that, people prepare a table. Uh, it's called Haft-sin. It's Haft-sin basically means seven S's. It includes seven items that starts with S and are put on a table, and each symbolizes a different thing. To be honest, when I ask people or when I look at different articles, the what they symbolize can differ from one person to another person, or one definition to another definition. But I think again they show a lot of uh, they show the nature worship roots of Iranians, or the animistic beliefs are very much present in this tradition, in the Haft-sin table, because you have basically you have a bit of greenery, a bit of grass kind of grown in a dish. You have that put on the table, usually wheat or barley. You have a sort of a sweet pudding called samanu. Everything in Persian starts with S. You have something that I believe in English they call Russian olives, sort of dried Russian olives, samanu they call in Persian. You have vinegar, sirke, apple, seep, garlic, seer, and sumac, which is called, I think, sumac. There are also other stuff you can add, like sekke, coin, or clock, saat, or
But
other
wait, I
things.
have a
So
question. Don't you also put a goldfish?
we get there, but
Oh,
that's not part of the Haft-sin. But
ah,
the minimum is the Haft-sin, and then
okay, yeah. Because I was
then
gonna say the eggs too, right? And neither
yeah,
of
yeah,
those start with a
yeah.
C or.
The big part of the New Year is the painted eggs,
Mhm.
which boiled eggs. Iranian kids usually paint them and put them on the table. Yeah, that's massive. Then you have a
But that doesn't
fishbowl
start
with
with an S, no?
no, just no, تخم مرغ is
Yeah.
no, does not. No, it's just part of the Haft-sin
Hmm.
table. As I said, it's really interesting because you can even have more than Haft-sins. You
Hmm.
can have up to, I think, 10 sins. You know, so it's a very flexible, as I mentioned many times, a very flexible ceremony. Then you have the painted eggs, the goldfish in the fishbowl, and usually a book to symbolize wisdom. The coin, for example, is to symbolize wealth. Apple, some people says, symbolizes the roundness of earth or the world or something. I'm not quite sure. But the greenery obviously symbolizing the return of life to earth and nature and all that. More religious people in Iran, they put probably Quran.
Yeah, I was
More
gonna ask you about the
nationalistic.
book. So usually, what are the options when it comes to the
Uh,
book?
yeah, the options are the option tonight's option. Usually more religious people or more traditional people, to be honest, they put Quran, even if they're not religious. That's been part of the thing. A lot of people put Shahnameh, which is again the Iranian mythological sort of collection book. You have some people who are, let's say, more Sufi. They have a more positive view of Sufis and more, they're more into metaphysics and all that mysticism. They put on perhaps Rumi's work, Molavi's work, that type of thing. You have people who put Hafiz's work on the table. So it's very much, again, family. Each family is different, each tribe is different, all that. But I would say Quran, Hafiz, and Shahnameh are the most common one that I've seen, at least. Especially, like Quran is by far, I would say, is the predominant thing. Then Hafiz and Shahnameh. So yeah, and it's, Iranian people try to obviously make this table as beautiful as possible, and be, I have my notes right in front of me right now. Notes I took from Wikipedia, by the way. But for example, eggs are a symbol of fertility. Mirror. Oh, there's always a mirror. I forgot about that. There's always a mirror, which is a symbol of self-reflection. Candle, symbol of enlightenment. Um, a, a flower, which I am very hesitant to pronounce the name of. We call it sombol. Hyacinth. Hyacinth? I have no idea. I think it's a Greek name for it, but it's a symbol of spring's arrival. So you see, the whole thing is very, very garlic, a symbol of medicine. You see a lot of nature stuff in there. It's the roots of it are very obvious in Haft-sin, I think. So that's the probably the most major. This is the biggest tradition and custom associated with New Year. I believe in my research I found that apparently in Afghanistan, instead of or in addition to Haft-sin, they do a Haft mive using dried fruits. They create a 7 different types of fruit sort of decoration table. So that sounds like a fascinating and very good idea. And then you have usually, depending on the time of the day, if it's around noon or if it's around dinner time, whenever the New Year happens, following that you have a family lunch or dinner together, and that's
Yeah, so I
usually,
was
I
just
mean,
gonna say sorry. So before you say that, so this table you set it up in advance, and then you kind of say like Happy New Year whenever the time is, as long as it doesn't happen in the middle of the night around that table, kind of, right? Or like that table is
yes,
there, and like you hang around it until it's the
yeah,
time, and then you
yeah,
wish
yeah, that table,
whoever is there Happy New Year. And
yeah, that table is, yeah, exactly. It's in a corner or something. It's not a table that you eat on or something.
yeah,
It's a separate thing, and you keep it for 13 days, which we get to.
okay.
Um, yeah, you keep that table on for 13 days at least, sort of. It's kind of equivalent of the Christmas tree that
I
you
really
keep
like
for
all these
Christmas.
links to the nature. I mean, all these items had really good justifications.
Yeah, I
I,
think, yeah, people wanted to celebrate, and they were looking for stuff to just
I
the
really
eggs
like the
are.
eggs and fertility rule. I think that's a good idea with eggs. From now on, they should just be celebrated as a sign
I
of
have.
fertility.
Yeah, I don't understand why, but yeah, Easter is a form of, by the way, spring festival that is very much it has probably very similar roots to Iranian New Year, and they have the same egg thingy, because yeah, you can't really connect egg to Jesus and the whole crucifixion. There is what does that have to do with eggs? So yeah, it's clearly connected to sort of nature
Yeah.
worship before those stuff.
But okay,
But
so Iranian. So we talked about a few days before. There's a whole fire thing where you jump over fire. Then there's the Iranian New Year itself, with the
and then the
table, which is the
meal,
main thing. Yeah.
yeah, and then the meal, which is the most common meal, especially like within my background and stuff. In the south, I think it's a bit different, or in the central Iran, they have different dishes. But it's usually sabzi polo, which is rice cooked with herbs and fish.
With fish, right?
You,
Yeah.
usually, a specific type of fish comes from northern Iran. It's called literally white fish. It's a type of cod, I believe. Actually, there's a fairy tale. I don't know if you heard. It's a very old fairy tale about a king's daughter who has a fish bone is stick in her
Mm.
throat, and then a guy comes and rescues her, and then they get married. It's a very old
Yeah.
fairy tale, and the fish in that fairy tale is this fish.
And it is
Um,
full of little bones, and like when you're
yeah,
eating
you
it, it's
have to.
kind of like your responsibility to take out the
Yeah,
bones.
yeah. You have to literally with hand go through the meat and
Yeah.
take it out because they're very tiny bones.
I
But
wonder if
it
in
is
Western countries people ever eat fish like this. I mean, I haven't eaten fish in a long time, so.
well,
And,
yeah. I don't. I'm sure they do, but this specific fish does not exist anywhere but in Iran and maybe in Azerbaijan and that way, because most of this fish is in the rivers of Iran or southern shores of the Caspian.
yeah, I was gonna
So
say Caspian Sea. Yeah.
and yeah, it's a very, I would say, it's the only fish for me that comes close to salmon in terms of
Okay.
taste, and maybe even better than salmon. Salmon is just doesn't have that much bones, so you just dig into it really. It's easier to eat. But other types of fish are also very common. Trout is very common to have, a spotted trout, that type of thing. So yeah, that's the New Year meal. Then what you do is that you go visit usually you start with the biggest guy in town, like your grandfather or somebody who's the head of the family of some kind. You start visiting them. They usually
Hold on. So
give
that's an
you
interesting thing. That just made me think of something. So you usually celebrate it like right then and then with
then
like
and there.
then and there, sorry, with your immediate family, or is it some and then you go to like even like grandparents and uncles? I guess like no one's ever all together, or is that also a thing?
I've had New Year's that I celebrated with my grandparents, but most of them it was just with immediate family members.
And then you go like
You know,
you're
yeah,
saying
yeah,
right now.
exactly. And then you go, if it's, for example, usually if it's in the morning, you, or let's say 10 o'clock or something, you have the meal, and right after that you start visiting. And the aim of these visits, they say it's to strengthen the bond of family and respect for the elder, but I found the real reason is to gather as much cash as you can, because what they do is in Iran, elder people are supposed to give people gifts or AD, and this is usually money. They put it inside the book that is on the table, usually Quran or other book, and you go and you take it. Sometimes they write something on it, or
And a
as a
lot of the times they try to put new bills. I don't know if
yeah, it
like
was a big
brand new
thing in
bills.
Iran that they always try to getting a new bill around New Year used to be a difficult time. Nowadays they just give gift cards, or they just or how much do you want? All right,
Yeah, because
I'm
with the
just
Iranian
transferring it right now.
currency, right? They would have to leave like this much money for it to
Yeah,
to
yeah,
mean anything.
and I would say Iran is a far more, like in Europe, cash is still much more in use. In Iran, nobody cash, especially after Corona, it's pretty much has gone out of use. Just like I was very surprised when living in Europe, I found like in Iran we never used coins. Very
Yeah, I
rarely.
mean they're meaningless.
It's yeah, exactly. It's
You
like
can't buy a water with like I mean you would need like multiple
many,
coins.
yeah, a lot of
Like the
coins.
biggest coins possible, of course.
Yeah, give me a gum. Yeah, like, but so yeah, cash has gone out of fashion somewhat. But money is exchanged people are made happy. It's really funny because it's literally, it's just, I love it. It's a very straightforward festival in terms of you want us to visit grandpa, you have to pay for it. So, and it's bribery disguised as family tradition and
Yeah.
cultural tradition, I think.
It's
But
funny. I
yeah,
have this one recollection. I met my dad's uncle only once in my life. And it
oh
was
wow.
after an Eid, and I went and he gave a lot of money. Like he was this old guy that I never met, and he was my
Yeah,
dad's
like
uncle.
there are you people you meet during these 2 weeks that you have never met, have ever heard of, but they are older than you. They're gonna hand out cash. So
Yeah.
what you're gonna do? You're gonna go. Actually, I met like he died after my grandfather. My grandfather's uncle used to give me a lot of. He used to write on the money that this money, if you keep this in 10 years, I'll give you like thrice the amount or 4 times the amount. And at the time, we didn't realize that there is such a thing as inflation, and we thought, oh, cool. But he was really tricking us because
I mean,
because of
yeah.
inflation meant he would give us nothing really.
Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah,
nowadays, wow.
yeah. But
Yeah.
nowadays it's just a joke. Yeah. But yeah, that's and then the major customs come to an end with Sizdah, which is literally translates to getting rid of 13's negativity or curse. It's the first 13th of the year, so on the 13th of the year there is a sort of a national picnic day. People try to get out of the house to stay away from the bad omen, which usually leads to many accidents and hospitals overrun and all that. So the logic on that is quite dodgy. But that Sizdah is a picnic, and usually when people are having that picnic, the greenery they had on the table, the dish of grass, the dish of barley or wheat or whatever they grew, they tie that, make a wish, usually a romantic wish or something like that, and then they drop it in a river. They put it in a river. Again, very much you see this connection with nature and all that. And they, sort of pass the curse of the 13, and then you go back to your normal life after that and get rid of the table and Haft-sin and all of that.
Yeah, it's like getting rid of the Christmas tree. But yeah, I think those are the main customs. I also know that a lot of people, I mean, of course, why wouldn't you
There,
try to buy new clothes? Sorry, I was gonna say for like the Iranian New Year and
oh,
wear
sure,
like new clothes.
that you do that in advance because you're
Yeah.
gonna go visit elders. You're gonna go to parties basically, so you want to be, very, you know, ready for it.
Yeah.
I would say that the thing, I mean, this is a very general overview you're giving, and I thought that's the best way to go about it because it is extremely varied, town to
Mm.
town, city to city, tribe to tribe, family to family, and country to country. So, the makeup of the Haft-sin, the Chaharshanbe Suri's way of celebration, all of that varies significantly from place to place. So I try to give it because, for example, if you focus on the Zoroastrians in India, they have a celebration for each day of the 13 days, I think, to a different spirit or an angel or some divinity. So yeah, this is a very general overview that the average person in Iran, everybody would know about at
Yeah.
least.
Okay. Very nice. Any other customs you want to mention? Iranian associated with the new year or anything? Well, anyway, if any of them come back to you, I have a very
Oh, there
nice.
is a great.
Oh,
Oh, there is the most important custom of all. I forgot. Is what they call what many people is traveling to north, wherever that is, and having juje, which is chicken
okay.
kebab.
I was gonna
So yeah,
mention that,
pretty
but I
much.
thought. Sorry, I'm cutting you off already. Sorry. I was gonna mention that, but then I thought that only makes sense if you live in Tehran and around there, right? If you're
No,
like in the south of Iran, you're gonna go north towards where? Because in
north. You're gonna
Tehran,
go
you go
to,
north and you
to
go to like the beach, like
yeah,
mountain
yeah.
beach, Caspian Sea
Well, no,
area.
north. To be fair, we should say the north. In
Yeah.
no, the north, when you say it in Iran, even
Okay.
if you're living in, let's say Mashhad, when you say Mashhad is on the eastern part, and it's north, I think it's about the same. So it's about the same place as same line as Tehran, I suppose. But anyway, even when they say north, north of them directly would be a different country, would be Turkmenistan, I
Okay.
think, right? But when they say north or the north, we are going to the north, everybody means just that tiny bit of land basically below Caspian.
Yeah,
That's
below the
the north.
sea.
I would say recently the southern shores of Iran have become increasingly popular because they are more. It's seen as more of a virgin territory and
Hmm.
more. North is during Eid times, during Nowruz times, during any holiday times. North because of great access through highways,
Yeah.
because of and it's yeah, it's not a pleasant experience. That
Yeah.
I have great memories from my childhood of going there, but during busy times and traffic, and it's not kept very clean, sadly.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Uh,
I same memories, and I mean, a lot of Iranians go there, right? Because I'm from Tehran, it's nothing. It's like a 3 to 4 hour drive max, and what, like 1 out of 6
depends
Iranians
on
live in Tehran.
yeah, depends on uh, where you want to go, obviously. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's not it's
generally.
the you can be by the like 6 hours is the maximum. Like although you can go further
Yeah,
in
if you
Mazan
go east or
on the
west,
east,
yeah.
but yes, you're. I think the drive to the shore would be maximum 5 6 hours.
Not even, I know, like from Tehran, if there's no traffic and all that, because like you mentioned, around the New Year's time, it could take like almost half a day because there's
Not yeah,
highways
even
and there are little
weekends.
roads. Yeah, yeah, even
Yeah, even weekends,
yeah.
it gets crazy. It gets crazy.
And I guess
But yeah,
all that
that's
is gonna, sorry, this is a small parallel, but because of COVID, people weren't allowed to go from one town to another just recently, right? But I guess that's been removed.
they announced they're gonna close the door roads and all that, and they did it I think 4 days before the New Year, so about 2 days ago. And but a lot of people I knew that they just went earlier. That's
Oh,
that's
so
all they.
now they've actually closed their lock.
Now you can't. Yeah, now I think since 2 days ago you can't leave.
Ah, okay.
Not everywhere. Not Tehran. I think is one of the places that is you're not supposed to
Yeah.
leave or enter or something like that. But first of all, a lot of people are willing to pay the fine because the fine is not that high for some people, and a lot of other people left earlier. So
Hmm.
I think it wasn't really
Yeah.
enforced or put together very well.
It'd be hard. I mean, I know even a few months ago, though, when they were trying to enforce it, they were going by number plates. So if you didn't have the number plate of the region,
Yeah,
they would
yeah.
stop
And
you. Yeah.
yeah, it's very much. I've heard the stories of people being stopped at the road, being returned. Some other people just letting them go. It's nobody. Well, I don't know any specifics, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's gonna be busy nevertheless because
Okay.
Chaharshanbe Suri, the fire festival, was extremely busy nevertheless.